He was slammed against the hood of a police car in front of his daughter's school. No charges, no explanation, just rough hands, cold metal, and a dozen staring children. The principal said nothing. The officers laughed. And when he asked for a lawyer, they laughed harder. But what they didn't know, what no one in that precinct knew, was that the man they just humiliated wasn't just any father. He built the courtroom they'd be begging for mercy in. Subscribe and tell us where you're watching us from. Jayden Harris adjusted the strap of his daughter's backpack and smiled down at her. You ready, Peanut? Why is that man staring at us? Layla asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Jayden followed her gaze. Two officers stood near the school entrance, one of them watching him with narrowed eyes. The other said something, and they both laughed. Don't worry about them, sweetie. Let's get you to class. He kissed her forehead and walked her to the front doors. A few parents gave him sideways glances. One teacher looked at him, then quickly turned away. Jayden felt the weight of it, the unspoken suspicion that came with simply being there. He waved goodbye as Layla disappeared into the building. Then, as he turned to head back to his car, the voice came. Hey, stop right there. Jayden turned slowly. Yes, officer? What are you doing here? Jayden blinked. Dropping off my daughter. The officer stepped closer. Tall, buzz cut, bulletproof vest pulled tight. Got some ID? Did I do something wrong? You look like someone we got a report about. A male, early 30s, loitering near a school. Jayden exhaled quietly. I'm not loitering. I'm a parent. I'll need to see your license. Jayden didn't move. Am I being detained? The officer's jaw tightened. The second cop circled around behind Jayden. Look, you can make this easy, or you can make it hard. Your call. My daughter just walked in there, Jayden said calmly. I'm not resisting, but I have a right to know why. The officer cut him off. Hands on the hood. Now. Jayden's hands slowly went up. Parents nearby began to watch, some clutching their children's hands tighter. No one said anything. He was slammed onto the car. Cuffed. Patted down. Rough, fast, careless. What's in your pockets? My wallet. Keys. Nothing else? Yeah? We'll see. Jayden's cheek pressed against the hot metal. He could hear footsteps. A child crying. Layla's voice. Daddy? He couldn't lift his head. Maybe, it's okay. Go back inside. The officers didn't stop. One pulled his ID from his wallet. Jayden Harris. That's supposed to mean something? Jayden didn't answer. Not yet. The principal finally stepped out the doors, speaking cautiously. Officers, is everything all right? Just a precaution, the cop muttered. We've got it under control. The principal nodded and stepped back without another word. Jayden closed his eyes. They had no idea what they had just done, and he wasn't going to tell them. Not yet. Jayden sat on the cold plastic bench inside the precinct's intake room, his wrists still marked by the handcuffs. A fluorescent light above buzzed faintly, casting a sterile glow over the off-white walls and scratched linoleum. You want to tell us what you were really doing near that school? Officer Kellerman asked, arms folded across his vest. Jayden looked at him calmly. Dropping off my daughter. Right. And I'm the mayor. The other officer, Rodriguez, according to his tag, leaned against the doorframe. We got a report about a man casing the school. Your description was close enough. Jayden kept his tone steady. So you brought me in. Without charges. Without rights read. Without cause. Rodriguez grinned. We don't need charges to ask questions. Jayden glanced at the clock. 10:14 a.m. He had a hearing at 1 o'clock. Not as a defendant. Not as a lawyer. As a judge. But they didn't know that. And he still wasn't going to tell them. Not yet. Can I make my one phone call? Jayden asked. Kellerman shrugged. You can wait. We're still figuring out what you are. Jayden leaned forward slightly. You mean who, not what? But thanks for the clarity. Rodriguez chuckled darkly. Smart mouth. That won't help you. The door opened. A younger officer entered with a clipboard. His record came back clean. Nothing. Not even a parking ticket. Kellerman scowled. That can't be right. Run it again. Ran it twice, sir. Rodriguez rubbed his jaw. Maybe he's just real good at hiding. Jayden said nothing. The door slammed shut again. He was alone. For now. In the hallway, the two officers whispered. You think he's lying? Doesn't matter. You saw how he acted. Calm. Like he owns the room. People like that? Always hiding something. Back inside, Jayden's phone, taken during the search, buzzed quietly on the desk across the room. Text from his clerk. Judge Harris, your 1 p.m. docket is still confirmed. Will you arrive early? Jayden closed his eyes. He knew the courthouse was 4 blocks away. He could walk it blindfolded. If they let him go. If. Outside the station, Layla sat in the school counselor's office. Tears streaked her cheeks. She hadn't seen her dad since he was shoved into the squad car. The counselor spoke softly, but the words felt empty. "I'm sure it's all just a misunderstanding, sweetie." Layla didn't answer. She knew what she saw, and her silence would remember it forever. "So here's how this works, Mr. Harris," said Officer Kellerman, dropping a blank form on the metal table. "You give us a voluntary statement. We'll decide what to do with it." Jayden didn't move. "I've asked for a phone call. I've asked for legal counsel. I've asked what I'm being detained for. You've refused all 3. Rodriguez leaned in from the wall. "Nobody said you're detained. You're just here." Jayden raised an eyebrow. "In a locked room. With no rights read. After being cuffed, searched, and dragged from a school parking lot. Like I said. Voluntary." Kellerman smirked. "You're welcome to leave. Anytime we say you can." Jayden exhaled slowly. The anger was there, deep in his chest. But it stayed where it belonged. Controlled. Contained. He glanced at the form. Suspicious mail, school grounds. No case number. No timestamp. No arrest code. No legal footing at all. "If I sign that," Jayden said evenly, "I'd be legitimizing an unlawful seizure. You know that." Rodriguez stepped forward, his shadow falling over the table. "What I know is, you were acting shady near a school. And when we approached, you gave attitude. I asked questions. That's not attitude. That's a right." Kellerman snorted. "You think you're smarter than us?" Jayden looked him dead in the eye. "I know the law better than both of you. Combined." For a second, the room went quiet. Kellerman's smirk vanished. He leaned across the table, jaw tight. "If you don't start cooperating, we'll find something to hold you on. You sure you want to play this game?" Jayden smiled faintly. "You already did. And you lost the second you put your hands on me." Rodriguez slammed his palm against the table, papers fluttering. "That a threat?" "That's a fact." In the hallway, a civilian clerk walked past with a file cart. Paused. Glanced at the door. She'd seen Jayden somewhere before. But where? Inside, Jayden sat calmly as the officers stepped out, muttering low. "Something's not right. He's too calm. Think he's a lawyer? Maybe worse. Maybe press. You think he recorded it?" Kellerman checked the phone on the desk. Locked. No calls made. But he had it out before we approached. "Should we scrub the body cam footage?" A pause. Already done. They didn't notice the door hadn't fully closed. That a sliver of sound carried through the gap. Jayden heard everything. And for the first time, he smiled. Jayden didn't look up when Kellerman returned, now holding a small brown evidence bag. "Guess what we found in your vehicle?" Jayden stayed silent. Kellerman dropped the bag on the table. Inside, a folding pocket knife. Old. Scratched. Not his. "You carry this around schools too?" Jayden didn't blink. "That's not mine." "Sure it isn't." Rodriguez reappeared in the doorway, arms crossed, face unreadable. "Officer Patel says she found it in your glove compartment during inventory." Jayden shook his head once. "You searched my car without a warrant?" Kellerman shrugged. "Community safety exception. It was parked near a school. Probable threat. We documented everything." Jayden leaned forward slightly. "Then show me the inventory sheet." Neither officer moved. "You don't have one," Jayden said quietly. "Because you didn't log it. Because you planted it." Rodriguez stepped inside the room, closing the door behind him. The click echoed louder than expected. "You making accusations now?" Jayden met his eyes. "No. I'm stating facts. And facts are what bring departments down." Kellerman smiled again, but it didn't reach his eyes this time. "You really don't know how this works, do you?" "I know exactly how it works." Jayden tapped the table once. "You're trying to stack charges that won't stick. You're hoping I panic. Say something you can twist." Rodriguez pulled out a small notepad. "Okay then, let's try this again. What were you doing at the school today?" Jayden stayed silent. "Refusing to answer?" "Exercising my Fifth Amendment right." Rodriguez scribbled something. "Subject uncooperative. Displays aggressive posture. Possible concealment of dangerous object." Jayden scoffed. "Aggressive posture? I'm sitting with my hands folded. Doesn't say that on paper." Kellerman's grin returned. "Remember, history's written by the clipboard." A quiet knock at the door interrupted them. Officer Patel peeked in. Sorry to interrupt. That guy's phone." "I just realized something." Rodriguez frowned. "What?" She stepped in, holding the device. "This name. It matches someone from the courthouse. Jayden looked up. Kellerman grabbed the phone from her. Judge J. Harris, secure line. That you? Jayden said nothing. Patel blinked. Wait, is he a judge? Rodriguez's mouth tightened. For the first time, they all fell silent. Jayden leaned back, arms crossed, and waited. Officer Patel stood frozen, her eyes darting from the phone screen to Jayden's face. That contact. Judge J. Harris. Is that you? Jayden gave her nothing. No confirmation. No denial. Just silence. Rodriguez grabbed the phone again, scrolling quickly. Call history. Voicemail from Chief Clerk, 3rd Circuit. And this one, Judicial Security Division. What the? Kellerman cursed under his breath. He's not just a judge. He's our judge. Downtown Court. Criminal Division. Rodriguez's face paled. I've seen him before. Arraignment 2 months ago. The Williams case. No. Kellerman backed away from the table. We detained a sitting judge. In street clothes. In front of a school. Without cause. Jayden watched them. Still no emotion. They were unraveling on their own. Patel whispered, You didn't run his plates? Of course I ran them. Kellerman snapped. Clean. Civilian registry. Judges have shielded records. It wouldn't show unless you flagged judiciary access. Rodriguez slammed his fist lightly against the wall. This is bad. Really bad. Kellerman was already moving. We clean this up. Right now. No file. No report. We say it was a miscommunication. Apologize. Offer a ride. Hell, buy him coffee. Rodriguez nodded quickly. Jayden finally spoke. You deleted your body cam footage. Both men stopped cold. Jayden looked at Patel. And if you touch mine, even attempt to unlock it, that's a federal felony. Chain of custody. You're already halfway into obstruction. Patel stepped back, suddenly nervous. I didn't touch anything. I just checked the name. Kellerman tried to recover his tone. Look, sir, Judge Harris, it was a mistake. You fit a vague description. We were just doing our job. Which part? Jayden asked. His voice was calm, but every word cut. The part where you slammed me against the car? The part where you planted a knife? Or the part where you falsified a statement? No one answered. Jayden stood up slowly. Calm. Controlled. I'm leaving now. And if I'm not out that door in 60 seconds, the next uniform I see will be federal. Kellerman moved toward the door. Yes, sir. Of course. Jayden walked past them. Not a glance back. Not a threat spoken. But they all knew. This wasn't over. Not even close. Jayden stepped into the marble lobby of the 3rd Circuit Courthouse 33 minutes before the hearing. The security officer at the front desk straightened immediately. Judge Harris, welcome back, sir. Jayden nodded, no expression. Just walked. The same hands that had been cuffed 2 hours ago now brushed the lapel of his tailored jacket. He passed clerks, interns, court officers. Some smiled. Some bowed slightly. Some looked surprised. But no one dared ask why his knuckles were bruised. He entered his chambers in silence. Inside, a briefcase, a docket, and a sealed envelope already placed by his assistant. On the outside of the envelope, one word, intake. Jayden opened it. Photos. Of him. Face pressed to a car hood. Layla in the background, crying. A phone snapshot taken from across the street. An anonymous witness. Someone had sent it directly to Judicial Security. Attached, a typed note. We saw what they did. If you pursue this, we're ready. Jayden folded the note, placed it in the back of his briefcase. He didn't need witnesses. He had evidence. At 12:55 p.m., he stepped into courtroom 4B. The courtroom stood when he entered. All rise. He took the bench. Looked over the docket. The first case, People versus Arturo Medina. Unlawful search and seizure. Jayden adjusted the microphone. Let's proceed. No mention of his mourning. No change in tone. No hint of fire beneath the robe. But the bailiff kept glancing at his hands. Knuckles don't bruise without resistance, he thought. At 3:22 p.m., his calendar cleared. He called one number. This is Judge Harris. I need internal judicial review assigned to a matter involving misconduct by Precinct 72. 2 officers. Names attached in the brief I'm forwarding. Yes, I'll sign a full affidavit. He hung up. No fury. No statement. Just a system quietly activated. At Precinct 72, Kellerman sat in his cruiser, sweat on his brow despite the air conditioning. Rodriguez entered from the lot. You hear anything? Kellerman shook his head. Maybe he's letting it go. They sat in silence for a moment. Then Rodriguez's phone buzzed. He picked it up. His face dropped. "You might want to see this." Kellerman leaned over. On screen, official notification from Internal Affairs. Subject, temporary suspension, Officer B. Kellerman/Officer M. Rodriguez. Investigation opened. Allegations, unlawful detention, use of excessive force, tampering with evidence. Kellerman cursed under his breath. Rodriguez couldn't speak. Neither of them saw the email that came next. From Jayden's office. Sent directly to the district attorney. Subject line, video request, courtroom use. At 8:30 the next morning, Jayden stood outside a closed conference room on the 12th floor of the Judicial Conduct Review Board. Inside sat 5 people, 2 retired judges, 1 senior federal investigator, and 2 civilian oversight observers. They weren't expecting him to appear in person. He entered without ceremony. "Judge Harris," one of them said, standing halfway, "we've just begun reviewing your statement." Jayden placed a folder on the table. Supplementary materials. Audio logs. Timestamped entries. Body cam manipulation patterns from Officers Kellerman and Rodriguez. Pattern matches 3 prior complaints, all dismissed. One of the former judges opened the folder. Skimmed. Stopped. Blinked. "You have original source data? Pulled from back-end storage. Judicial security sweep. No chain of custody violations." The room went quiet. Jayden continued. "I'm not asking for charges. Not yet. I'm asking for due process. Not for me. For the people they've done this to who weren't judges." The investigator tapped his pen against the file. "If this goes forward, it won't stay quiet." Jayden's eyes stayed fixed. "I'm counting on that." At that same moment, in a dusty office at Precinct 72, Kellerman's locker was being emptied by order. Rodriguez paced in silence, a yellow envelope in his hand. Inside, a formal suspension letter. "Pending investigation." He muttered. "That means nothing's proven." Kellerman didn't respond. Rodriguez looked at him. "Say something, man." Kellerman stared straight ahead. He didn't yell. He didn't threaten. He didn't run to the news. So? That means he's not finished. Meanwhile, Jayden returned to his office. 2 files were already on his desk. Both names he recognized. From his court. Defendants previously arrested under reports signed by Kellerman and Rodriguez. Jayden opened the first. Stop and frisk, no warrant. Resisting arrest. No video on record. He tapped a note into the margin. Review for suppression of evidence. He opened the second file. Teenager. Minor injuries. No legal guardian informed. Jayden's jaw tightened. He called his clerk. "Move the Cruz and Madison cases to my docket. Direct review. And flag both for reevaluation of probable cause." The clerk paused. "Sir, that'll trigger an automatic review of officer testimony." "Good," Jayden said, and hung up. Across town, Officer Patel sat in her kitchen, phone in hand. She hadn't been suspended yet, but she had seen what the others did, and now she had a choice. Her thumb hovered over the send button. The file attached, a recorded voicemail. Left on her precinct line. Kellerman's voice. "We scrubbed the footage. He'll never prove it." She had sent to judicialconduct@state.gov and exhaled. The summons arrived quietly. A plain envelope. No markings. Hand-delivered by court security. Inside, formal notice of internal evidentiary hearing. Officers Kellerman and Rodriguez. Scheduled. Mandatory. They were no longer under investigation. They were now defendants. Kellerman stared at the paper. "He's bringing us into his courtroom?" Rodriguez shook his head slowly. "No. It's not criminal court. It's disciplinary tribunal." "What's the difference?" Rodriguez's voice cracked. "In tribunal, judges don't recuse themselves. And evidence rules are tighter. So the person presenting evidence is him." Jayden stood alone in the tribunal room later that week. Robe off. Chair turned. Neutral expression. He wasn't the presiding officer. That job fell to a retired federal judge. But Jayden was the complainant. And now, legally, he had the floor. The hearing officer spoke first. "Mr. Harris, you may proceed." Jayden stood. Placed a flash drive on the table. Clicked the remote. The screen behind him lit up. First, security footage from the school external cam. No sound. Just images. Jayden being pressed against a car. His daughter screaming. Other parents staring. No aggression. No resistance. Just humiliation. Then, a copy of the falsified inventory form. Then, Patel's forwarded voicemail. Jayden didn't speak during the playback. He let the evidence speak instead. The hearing officer turned to the defense table. Officer Kellerman. Officer Rodriguez. Do you dispute any of what was just presented? Silence. Rodriguez shifted in his seat. Swallowed hard. Kellerman stared ahead. No comment. Jayden's eyes flicked toward him once. Then back to the judge. For the record, I decline to pursue civil penalties at this time. Murmurs rippled through the room. The judge raised an eyebrow. No financial damages? Not yet. Jayden continued. What happened to me isn't the real issue. What matters is how many others it's happened to who didn't have the robe, who didn't have a title to protect them. He turned to face the officers directly. This hearing isn't about me. A pause. It's about what happens next. Outside the tribunal room, a group of silent onlookers waited. Not media, not protesters, just courthouse staff. People who'd seen too much, heard too much, been silent too long, and now watched. Inside, the hearing officer made a note. The tribunal will reconvene with findings in 7 days. Until then, both officers remained suspended. Kellerman rose quickly, left without a word. Rodriguez stayed seated, eyes locked on Jayden. You could have ruined us, he said quietly. Jayden didn't respond. He just looked at him and walked away, not out of mercy, out of purpose. Jayden sat alone in his chambers when the call came. Judge Harris, it's Arthur Brandt, Deputy Commissioner. Jayden didn't respond. Brandt continued. Off the record, of course. But I wanted to speak man-to-man. Jayden remained silent. We both know what's coming next. Tribunal ruling. Public exposure. Departmental fallout. Still silence. I'm not saying they don't deserve consequences, Brandt added quickly. But internal affairs is already stretched thin. Morale is dropping. Officers are nervous. Jayden finally spoke. Good. Brandt chuckled softly, like he'd expected that. Look, we're prepared to offer early retirement to both officers. Quiet exit. No admission of wrongdoing, but no pension either. They disappear. You win. They vanish. No trial. No spotlight. Jayden stared at the wall. And what do I give you? No press. No written opinion. No ripple effect. Just resolution. Jayden stood up. Walked to the window. Below, the city moved as if nothing had happened. Parents walked their kids to school. A man in a suit hailed a cab. A teenage boy crossed the street in a hoodie. Jayden spoke quietly. They slammed me into a car in front of my daughter. They lied on record. Tampered with evidence. Laughed while they did it. A pause. And I'm the one you're asking to be reasonable. Brandt cleared his throat. It's just, you know how politics works. You've been in this system long enough. Jayden's voice turned colder. That's why I'm not leaving it. He ended the call. No anger. No emotion. Just decision. Minutes later, his assistant entered. Judge, your next appointment is early. That civil rights attorney from Michigan? She's asking to observe your tribunal session next week. Jayden nodded. Let her in. The assistant hesitated. And there's a voicemail. From Precinct 72. Internal Captain. He says he wants to meet. Privately. Jayden turned back to his desk. Decline. All future communication goes through the court. Understood. He reached for the next case file. Laid it open. Read the name. A teenage defendant. Picked up outside a gas station. Same 2 officers on the arrest report. He scribbled in the margin. Suppress all evidence. Order independent review. Outside the courthouse, Officer Patel sat in her parked car. She hadn't been called in for questioning. Not yet. But she kept rewatching that voicemail. Over and over. Kellerman's voice. That smugness. She hit forward. This time, not to oversight. This time to the DA. Inside the courthouse, Jayden closed the file. He didn't smile. But something in the silence around him shifted. The system wasn't protecting itself anymore. It was preparing to speak. The tribunal room was silent. Not tense. Not chaotic. Just quiet. The retired federal judge looked down at the printed findings. Then up at the officers seated across the table. Kellerman's jaw was tight. Rodriguez didn't look up. This panel has reached its decision, the judge began. Jayden sat at the side, robe folded beside him. He wasn't at the center. He didn't need to be. Based on the evidence presented, we find that Officers Kellerman and Rodriguez did unlawfully detain a private citizen without cause, falsify statements in official records, and deliberately tamper with chain of evidence documentation. The judge's voice remained even. Effective immediately, both officers are terminated from service without benefits. Their files will reflect findings of misconduct and be forwarded to the State Certification Board for decertification. No gasps. No applause. Just silence. Rodriguez finally looked up. Jayden looked back. Not with anger. Just acknowledgement. The tribunal dismissed. Jayden stood. Picked up his robe. As he stepped into the hallway, a few clerks stopped moving. One nodded. Another quickly turned away, eyes wet. They'd seen too much. And now they'd seen someone fight back, not with fire, but with law. Outside, the sky was gray. Autumn wind pushed leaves across the courthouse steps. Jayden walked alone to the curb. A familiar voice called out, "Daddy." Layla ran across the sidewalk, arms out. Jayden crouched to meet her. She hugged him tightly, small hands gripping the collar of his coat. "Are you okay now?" He nodded. "I'm okay now." She stepped back and looked up at him, frowning slightly. "They won't do that again, right?" Jayden paused, then smiled, not for her, but because she deserved one. "Not to me. Not to anyone else either." He took her hand. They walked down the steps together, past the place where uniforms used to look through him, past the doors that once let injustice in. Not one person stopped him. Not one dared. Back inside the courthouse, a new file appeared in the clerk's inbox. It read, State of New York versus Officers B. Kellerman and M. Rodriguez. Filed, criminal referral. Charge, official misconduct. And under the line marked, filed by, one name stood out. Judge J. Harris. No press. No crowd. Just paper. And principle.